Believe it or not, buying versus renting a house is a major debate, not just in America, but all over the world. Well, all of us grow up with a dream of owning a home where we can live our life according to our ease and comfort. But if you see the prices of homes and also the prices of rent are soaring significantly, this makes people contemplate that going for rent is better, or some say buying is a better option. With high prices, is it worth buying, or is it wise to rent right now? These questions might also worry and create confusion in your mind too. We have decided to discuss everything about buying or renting in detail, so you don't have to worry about it anymore. Before we get into the details and see the benefits and drawbacks of both buying and renting, while deciding, it is highly recommended to think objectively, not emotionally, as it feels different. Because it will help you to know whether you are making a financially correct decision or not. You might be thinking about how you can think about whether you are making the right decision or not. Because you might have enough money to buy a house and still you go renting and then bash yourself about your decision. So, what you have to do is to look at the cost of both buying and renting and see the advantages and disadvantages and decide according to your requirements. But before you learn about buying or renting in 2022, pay attention to the big red subscription button. As soon as you click it, you will be taken to the wealthy side, the life you deserve, where you'll find hundreds of videos. These videos contain the answers to almost any question you may have. There are also daily updates, so if you want to stay tuned, remember to turn on notifications. Costs of buying a home. First, and the foremost thing that you should consider before you take any decision is to know the costs which are attached to buying a house. The first cost is the down payment. Well, it is not an actual cost, but a notional cost, because this is the cost or the amount that you can invest somewhere else that you are going to pay as a down payment. It is essentially a good way of thinking financially rather than relying on your emotions, as all of these things have an opportunity cost. Because the money that you are giving to someone, you can invest it somewhere else and maybe get a chance to earn more money. This is the cost number one that you have to consider before you decide whether to go for buying or renting a house. The second cost is the interest on the loan. Well, most of us rely on paycheck to paycheck, and as a salaried person, you cannot afford much cash to buy a home in one go. You might be able to pay the down payment with your savings. However, you have to take a bank loan to buy a house. You might be asking how this can be a cost. Well, the original cost that you pay on the loan is the interest, which is very similar to paying your rent. You might think that you own your home, but you are paying rent up to some extent. Whether it's your bank or your landlord, it does not matter because you are paying some amount in both cases. So, the second cost is the interest on the loan that you take if you buy a house. And the third cost that you bear is the maintenance cost of the house. Maintenance cost arises because when it's your own home, then you fix all problems and give its maintenance charges because it becomes your responsibility. This is the reason this can be a recurring cost involved in owning a house, which you will not be able to skip. Costs of renting a home. Now, let's discuss the costs that are associated with renting a home. In the case of renting a home, there are different expenditures that you have to pay. The first cost is the rent itself, which you will have to pay every month, which is the actual amount. In most places, you have to pay some upfront or the amount of rent in advance. As in almost all of the states in America, you have to pay rent for the upcoming month. Let's understand what should be your financial approach in terms of renting a house. And to understand it, there is an important concept which is known as rental yield. Well, what does that mean? Let's say there is a value of a home or a property that will be for every home. This concept states that it is the return on the property that is achieved through rent. In simple words, how much you can get the percentage of the value of your property through rent being the owner. To give you an idea, assume a value of a house is around $500,000. Then, out of this amount, how much you can get in the form of rent is the rental yield. A good rental yield is between 7 to 8%, and it varies according to the state. This means if you are the owner of a house with a worth of $500,000 or more, you will get around 7 to 8% rent every year. On the other hand, if you live in a $500,000 house on rent, you'll be giving just 7 to 8% of the house value. It might vary according to the state and of course other factors as well. To cut the story short, living on rent can give more leverage for living in a house for more than 20 to 30 years depending on the current rental yield. That's why renting can be a great option if the rates of rent and property stay the same or low for a long period. So, now you know how much costs are associated with buying and renting a house. If you look for a clear answer whether buying or renting is better, you might not get a clear answer, because both options have their pros and cons, and this decision depends on the financial situation. And by knowing these pros and cons, you will surely be able to decide. Enjoying till now? Please hit the subscribe button now, like, share, and comment. And yes, keep watching. First, let's discuss the pros of buying a home. Well, the first advantage of purchasing a property is that it offers consistent mortgage payments. And when you take out a mortgage for your home, the mortgage payments are the same for every month. But in the case of renting, the owner is liable to control the rates of rent every month. So, the second advantage of buying a home is the appreciation in terms of the value of the home. So, what happens when you purchase a house is you become the sole owner of the house, and it can appreciate with time, as is obvious in real estate. And as long as appreciation is managed properly, it can provide long-term wealth. The next benefit that you can get if you go for buying is that you can get tax benefits. Because buying real estate is among the most significant financial decisions that you can make. But it is possible to make the investment worthwhile with huge tax benefits, such as tax write-offs. Despite these advantages, some cons are associated with buying. Well, the first one is that you have to cut your expenses to save for a mortgage or even the down payments. That's why buying a home is not suitable for everyone, especially if you are a salaried person. It is also not suitable for you if you have to switch places and in case you don't like staying in one place and want to change your career. Along with that, buying a house brings more financial demands, because if you want to own a house, it will require continuous financial demands. Like, you have to pay your bills, like utilities, emergencies, upgrades, maintenance, and repair as well. Now let's talk about the pros and cons which are associated with renting. The first advantage that you get if you go for rent is that you can save money, and this allows you to invest. Because when you rent a house, you don't have many things to pay for. You'll just have the cost and rent that also includes the maintenance cost. With the opportunity to save, as said, you just have a single payment in case of rent. On the other hand, if you buy a house, you have to pay the mortgage and also other costs as well, as you don't have to worry about the utilities, closing dates, mortgage, taxes, etc. And above all of this, you are going to have less responsibility if you choose to rent. Though you will have to do some maintenance and repairs at some points, but you don't have to worry about it much, as in most of those states, the property manager or the property owner takes care of it. Well, what are the disadvantages of living in a rental? If you choose to live on rent, you are going to have less jurisdiction. While living in a rental property, you will not have much say over the property's occupancy, rules, and pet policies. So, this is a significant disadvantage that you have to face if you decide to live on rent. Along with that, you have to face the increasing rental rates. As rental rates increase, buying a home can be a better option and more cost-effective. So, what is your decision? Well, to make it simpler, here are some important financial considerations that you should keep in mind. If you don't have a decent budget and you are a low-salaried person and not capable of buying a home, you have to change your career over time. Then renting a house makes more sense because it can be more feasible, as it does not limit you from the opportunities to switch places and you can move according to your requirements. But if you want to buy, then you should keep in mind the housing bubble that occurs sometimes, which can drastically reduce the value of your property. Like, it is not a good decision to buy a house when the prices are soaring and inflation is at a high level like today. Moreover, your lifestyle, personal life, and career will help you in deciding whether to buy or rent. As said, if you have a career that requires frequent traveling, or you have to switch from time to time, then renting is a better option to choose. And you will get plenty of time to decide or even think about buying a house when you have a financially stable position, or you are at the point where buying becomes essential. Consider investing $100,000 rather than using it as a down payment for a new home. Assuming you get an attractive annual return will enable you to rent a home for many years to come. Also, mortgages are increasing, and the cost of purchasing will increase. If you put the logic away and focus on the emotion and considering the pride of being a homeowner, then buying might make more sense for you. Whatever decision you make sure to think about it objectively and take the financial approach. It will help you to avoid regrets later in your life. Did you enjoy the video? Please hit the subscribe button, like, share, and comment.